Hey guys, so I decided for this video here, we're going to get a little more hands-on, and I'm just going to kind of go through the making of a maze game, a very simple kind of game in Gamemaker. I'll go through the building of how that would be done with programming in GML, and just sort of best practices, and this way you guys can kind of see how to write some code, see where, new people often get hung up when they're writing code, especially when making games like this. So you can see I already have some assets here. These are just custom drawn. They're not very good, but they should suffice. So this is the player. Looks pretty dandy there. And we got a wall. It's pretty simple right now, but each video will be a piece of this game, and each one will extend on this. There will be more items to come. We have a player object and a wall object, and you can see there's no solid or persistence on this. There's no parents yet and no depth changes, so this is all very standard. We also have a room I just set up, some barriers here. You could do this as well. And again, this is Gamemaker 8. This is not the studio, but this is going to be essentially transferable onto the studio. You could probably do even more with studio if you wanted to. So let's start by writing some movement and collision today. So we're going to start with a key press. Yeah, why not? So let's say they press the left button, the left key here. We're going to want them to move, right? We're going to want the player to move left. So that is negative on the, the numerical scale. So we're going to say his x value is negative equal, and that's a abbreviation for equals x minus 2. That's a pretty good speed. And we could always tune it after we test it. And we're going to try this. We're essentially going to put this in some other code here for the right movement, and we'll just put that into a plus sign. Yeah. Let's also get up and down. And yes, there are easier ways to do this, but for the sake of simplicity as far as learning, we're going to start with the most basic ways, and then we're going to find ways to simplify the code, places where code is being used redundantly, as in this case we're kind of copying code. And just changing some variables, so we'll make that simpler in the future, but for now let's just worry about some basics. So for up, the screen is, you would think up is positive, but in Gamemaker that's actually a negative value. So 0 on the screen is up here, whereas the higher values are down lower. So we're going to do that in negative. You can duplicate an event, which makes it easier. And for moving down, let's do positive. So this is just basic movement. There's no collision yet, but we want to run it and make sure that this is working. You're going to find out there's, some differences in how you might think this would work based on some preconceptions about how this would work. So yeah, he moves, but if I hold the key down, he doesn't stay moving. He does move left, right, and down. But it's kind of redundant to be pressing the key every time. So let's change these to keyboard events. This keyword means that when the button is held down, it will do this, in addition to when it's pressed, but the press is more specific. You should move a little bit faster now. And I just thought about this. Let's make the room speed 60. This will double his movement speed as well as doubling everything else that happens on screen. It essentially just makes everything happen faster. Let's see what this is like. Oh, he's moving at a good speed here. But he can walk through walls, and we want to fix that. So we're going to do this. If collision, let's do this. If there is a collision rectangle between the B box left, this B box left is where the bounding box of the left bounding box of the sprite collision. So this is the leftmost area of the player in X terms. So we're putting that for X1, because you're defining your rectangle right now. We're defining where this collision is going to be checked from. And we'll do B-box top. We want to check the whole collision of the player and his movement, so we can see if he's going to hit this thing. B-box left. -2. So now this is, you might say it's a little weird, but we need to give this rectangle some X width so that it can check an area. So we're going to check it for 2 pixels over because that's where he's potentially going to be moving to, and we want to make sure he's not colliding there. So, and for the other Y value, let's do bbox bottom because we need to get, again, some height there. Can't be the same value or you won't get any collision testing, to be frank. We're checking for object wall here. Precise, it doesn't matter. You can put a 0 for precision, and not me. Again, 0, that's fine. If collision rectangle is not equal to no one. No one is a keyword in Gamemaker, and essentially that means, you know, if this was true and there was a collision, it would return an ID of what object was colliding, but no one says, okay, there's no ID, it's returning. So this is saying if the collision rectangle from the bbox left to bbox left -2, given the height here, of a wall, if there's a wall in this box, and it's not nobody, if there's actually somebody there, we are not going to move. So maybe we'll execute some code here in the future, but for now, let's just do this. And this is, you're going to think this is bad programming, but like I said, there's going to be code to put up here in the future, so we will worry about that later. Let's start with some comments here. That'd be a good time to start commenting. If not colliding, then move. And yeah, again, we're copying this code, so you could say redundant, yes. But we will fix that later. bbox left. In this case, since it's vertical movement, we're going to want to get a good width on this box. You can sort of visualize it. Again, it's not the easiest thing to think about, but once you get to looking at what's going on here, it'll make sense to you. -2, because we're moving 2 in the y-axis, and this is, you know, y2. You can see that right here. So let's do that. And this is easy. We just invert this number here. And instead of checking bbox left, we're going to check the right bounding box because he's moving right, and we don't care what's happening to the left of him. You know, our walls aren't moving. If our walls were moving, we might want to check what's going on, or if there was an enemy that could be colliding with us, but just baby steps for now. So this is going to be y positive equal to 2. And again, bbox right. Top, bottom. Let's do bbox bottom. We'll add +2 here. So let's see. Now he's colliding perfectly, it looks like, and you can see we can get out of situations. He's not getting too stuck, but we're going to work on making that a little smoother, and we'll make it a little faster in the future. So yeah, this is all I'm going to go over today. These videos are going to get a little more in depth, but I wanted to kind of take it at a slow pace here. And I'm going to go back to the code so you guys can see it. I mean, YouTube, you can pause it if you want, but it's really very simple. We're checking for a collision. We're specifying our X bound, our first Y bound, and then our right and our second X bound and our second Y bound there, and then the object. If the collision is precise, we'll get into that more later. It's not that important. Our collision objects are both square-ish, so it really doesn't matter too much yet. And not me, we're not checking for this specific object, so it's not important because we're not checking for a collision of the object player. That would come into play if we're checking for the collision between 2 players in this case. And yeah, in the next video we're going to turn these into some functions, and this way we don't have to copy the code. And we'll also strip this down and put it all into a step function. But again, that's something you guys have to look forward to. For now, this is all we're going to get through today. So I hope you guys enjoyed. There'll be more coming shortly, hopefully tomorrow. And just try to follow along. And I'm sure some of you guys have already gotten way past this, but we're going to start at, you know, simple games and we'll work our way up. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please feel free to leave a comment. That would really help out. Suggestions are always welcome. Take it easy, guys.